Hello, mate. What's your name?
I'm Chris Ryan.
Chris Ryan. What do you do, Chris?
I turn sad stories into laughter, hopefully.
All right, another episode of Crowdworkcast. My name's Andrew Barnett. Thank you for joining me. Now, my guest this week is Christine Ryan, who is one of my favourite acts to work with. She's a very, very funny comedian. She was based in Canberra until recently, but now I am proud to say she's Sydney-based comedian. Still Canberra girl at heart, I suppose, but no matter where she lives, she's still very, very good. Now, her new show, Busy, is coming to a bunch of festivals in 2023, including Melbourne Comedy Festival, Sydney Comedy Festival, Canberra Comedy Festival, and Perth Comedy Festival, possibly others. So the best way to keep on top of where you can go see Christine is follow her Instagram at Christine Ryan Comedy. She updates all her dates, etc. there. She's very funny. I can't recommend going along to see her highly enough. If you want to see me live, December 9, I'll be in Thirroul at Ryan's Comedy at Ryan's Hotel. December 10, I'll be at the Panthers at Penrith as part of the Christmas Crackers Showcase there. I believe I'm hosting, which is going to be fun. And we'll be doing the same at the Juniors at Kingsford on December 16. So get along. See me, see Christine, give Christine a follow me on all the socials, and other than that, let's just crack on with this episode. Enjoy. I think now, full disclosure, this is our second take at this intro because I didn't hit record properly, and I love that turn of phrase, turn sad stories into laughter, because comedians, as we discussed, have so much trouble just saying, "Oh, I'm a comedian." Yeah. But you're full time. You're a proper comedian.
Look, I'm doing my tax this afternoon. Let's see how proper I am.
Mate, any day I can get away with paying a few bills by making something up.
Totally.
Just
can't believe my luck.
Yeah. I'm like, that's
how
for me.
Is this possibly a job?
Yeah.
You know, how could something exist that suits a scatterbrain? You know, a self-loather.
Yeah.
And also a show pony. Like, what combination of, creature?
It's a weird, like, dynamic comedians have. Because my wife is fascinated by it and trying to explain to people, like friends and stuff, when, like, they come, like, let's go to the show. Let's go to dinner beforehand. Andrew, you come for dinner, or go to dinner afterwards. And she's trying to explain, no, he
won't be fun.
Yeah.
Is that right?
He's not good company before a gig.
I love when friends or acquaintances, random long ago acquaintances might out of the blue be like, "I'm coming to the show. Do you want to have a drink beforehand?" I'm like, I do. I really do, but I can't. I'm just like cardboard, but before a gig.
So much. Like, I'm just like, no, this is like, I can't, like, I can't take the time to listen to someone, like actually have a chat with a friend and engage with them.
No.
Because it's all in
and
my
then you
head.
think about it, like you step back and you look at yourself and you're like, what is wrong with you?
Yeah.
Like, seriously, grow up.
Yeah.
Like, it's not that hard. You've done it before. Why are you acting like such a prima donna?
Well, the other thing that I feel would be really insulting if any of them ever see this was you go to dinner, or you briefly chat to some friends at drinks before you go to your show, but then you go backstage to the green room and chat to other comedians, and you're more than relaxed.
You're on fire.
You're just like, you're talking about everything except the gig that you're about to do. But because the context is you're all in that same position.
Yeah. It's so true. And I do love that about hanging out with other people that do comedy, because they are people mostly that I wouldn't meet in my day-to-day life. And I do love that you can just tap straight into a deeper level of conversation. I don't know whether it's just allowed or expected, but I feel like small talk is something that comedians don't do very well. It's just like we either talk about something funny or real or bad.
Yep.
But I'm not going to talk about the weather and what I bought at the shops.
Yeah, no. Or if you do, it's got an angle.
It has to be funny.
Story.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what happened to me at the shops? This is going to be interesting.
I love saying the shops.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know why.
Now, when you say the shops, what do you picture? Because
I picture my nan's place in Bondi, like the corner shop down the road from nan's, where she used to send me to go when I was about like 7 to buy her some Alpine Light.
Nice.
Cigarettes.
Alpine Lights.
Yeah.
She's like the menthols, did she?
Yeah.
Nice. Classy lady.
Yeah, Nana Mary.
Well, you can't brush your teeth all the time. You know? Sometimes you need a menthol. Oh man, see, because the shops now for me, like if I go to the shop, for me, I picture the supermarket. But I remember when I was a kid, we were living in Corowa, which is sort of smaller country town, like not tiny, like 5,500 people, but we'd go, like Mum would go into Albury to go to the shops, and that was to go clothes shop, like go to Myers.
Oh yeah, totally. I mean, I also think of any shops as the shops.
Yeah,
I just love saying the shops.
It's so...
a saying that a friend of mine uses is like a real one from the shops. So like when I started getting paid comedy gigs, it's like, oh, you're like a real one from the shops.
That's such a good... I love it. I do love a turn of phrase like that. Like my other one's like, oh mate, like a bought one.
Yeah, bought one from the shops.
Like a bought one.
Yeah, so good.
So it looks genuine. It's genuine. Because did you ever have the homemade clothes when you were a kid?
No, I did have an unusual amount. Well, actually, I grew up in India, so that's a whole thing.
What?
Yeah, I know. Sorry, I just throw that in there. But that explains why I had some quite handmade clothes, often with ruche. I don't know if it's ruching, because I'm not a sewer. But there was a lot of fancy stuff going on. Like, I don't know what... I don't even know.
Like detail?
There was detail. There were frills and details and pinning, and there was stuff.
Okay, we have to get into this.
Yeah.
India. So...
Oh,
where,
we don't
like,
have
what
to
is...
get...
No, I want to know now. I had no idea you grew up in India.
Really?
Okay. Talk through
I didn't
this
mean
story.
to throw that in there. It's really just...
No, this is great.
My dad is an agricultural economist. In the 70s, when I was 9 months old, we moved to Hyderabad, South India.
Wow.
And I grew
the Hyderabad Sunrisers, they were your team, were they?
Oh, I don't know. I don't follow sport of any nature, except gymnastics. I do. I watch a lot of gymnastics reels.
Oh, really?
On Instagram, yeah.
Really? Now, just so you know, right now, if I got that team wrong, there are people hammering me in the comment section of this. Yes. Oh,
okay.
Massively.
That's fascinating to me. That...
People take especially Indian cricket, it is taken very seriously.
Okay.
But why gymnastics reels?
Oh, because gymnastics is the best sport in the world.
What is it about gymnastics?
I used to do it as a kid,
but
it is so hard. Like when you see people doing backflips on the beam and, and it's just, there's nothing better, mate. It's so satisfying. Good watch. Yeah. Give it a go. Get it in your algorithm.
Were you the ribbon? That's my favourite.
No, that's
the ball where they catch it, they throw it up.
No,
do a flip and then catch it.
That's the other kind. I do the artistic gymnastics. That's called something rhythmic.
Rhythmic.
That's rhythmic gymnastics.
That's gymnastics
totally
to music.
Different vibe. No, just gymnastics with less terrifying danger.
Yeah, that's gymnastics. That's closer to fizzy.
No, I didn't say that.
The gymnastics community, come at me. See how we go.
Yeah. But yeah, so I grew up in India.
Oh, wow. So how long
until
were you
I was
there?
9.
9?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Wow. Do you remember, what do you remember of that time?
Oh, it was great. Loved it. Like we had heaps of boulders out the back of our joint. It was not developed like it is now. Like Hyderabad now is like this bustling city with IT workers and, office high rises and things. But when I grew up there, it was quite small and there wasn't a lot of development. So there was these huge granite boulders everywhere. And it was just hot and you could go climbing boulders and there were snakes. The whole thing was kind of exciting and great mates. You had a small, tight-knit international community that all went to the same school and, it was just loads of fun, great food. Just the best. Loved it.
South Indian. So is that mostly vegetarian?
A lot of vegetarian, yeah. And I loved it. And it was like biryanis and thalis and dosas and stuff. Like they're still my favourite foods. And I think when we came back to Australia, we moved to Canberra. Dad got a job in Canberra.
Well, same, isn't it? Hyderabad to Canberra.
I couldn't believe how bad the food was in Australia. I'm not casting aspersions on my mum, but she herself said, "I can't cook. This is terrible." And I just remember it was chops and 3 veg,
Yeah.
and I hated it so much. And at one point I turned vegetarian just because I was hoping someone would give me a dal, and I was sick of chops.
The only dal you got was like from the lady at the shops. There you go, dal. Take those back to your nan.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's I think Australian, and I'd like to say Australian food has improved immeasurably in my lifetime in terms of just the range of stuff people eat, I suppose, which is probably, just a sign of more multiculturalism.
Oh, yeah, thank goodness. Yeah.
And that is the thing. Yeah, I can imagine, though, coming back to Australia in those days, even trying to get Indian food,
it wasn't a big thing. And so the food was a disappointment, but every other aspect I felt like Canberra was Hollywood. It's like, oh my God, there's McDonald's. What? I mean, I think back then it was only at the Gold Coast, but when I'd visit my cousins at the Gold Coast, we'd go to McDonald's and to like Surfers Paradise and to the Grundy's arcade where we'd play Space Invaders and stuff. And I just thought, well, this is the future. I'm living in the future now.
I remember going into, we used to have to go, we're in Coral when we were kids. We had, especially I think there's a McDonald's there now, but when I was growing up, there was no fast food chains, not even a pizza place. I remember going in for birthday parties to have my birthday party at the Pizza Hut dine-in.
Oh, man.
The Works. Remember when you used to get the all-you-can-eat, the Works?
The salad bar.
Oh.
I just, I still miss the bacon bits at the salad bar and the Thousand Island dressing. Like, I've never had a salad as good as at Pizza Hut.
Oh, you never ate at Sizzler?
No, I can't say I recall the Sizzler salad bar.
Sizzler, oh man.
Really?
Sizzler had a good salad bar.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, good sneeze guard to keep you from really getting your head in the salad. But mate, there was a time, when the all you can eats were,
the salad bar was a great thing. And it's funny because a Pizza Hut is not known. I mean, it's not branded for the salad.
No.
And yet here we are talking about the salad more than the pizza.
But that was trying to explain to my kids that when I was a kid, you used to be able to dine in at a Pizza Hut.
Yeah. My mum and I, when my dad, because he travelled a lot for work, and when my dad would go away, Mum would get me and we would go to the Pizza Hut and eat in.
Oh.
And, mate, it was so good. They were happy days.
The ice cream too. You used to be able to pull your own soft serve ice cream.
Yes.
Had the machine. I remember. So one fateful trip. Turns out the machine had. I don't know if they just changed the. It turns out it was just a gelatinous bag of ice cream, which you don't want to see that.
You don't.
In terms of, you lose the romance for the soft serve.
Yeah.
But I pulled out. I don't know if it needed changing or just been changed. And so I pulled the handle down, and it just.
Oh no!
Like just an explosion of ice cream went everywhere, and then I'm just looking at my bowl because it sort of hit the bowl and just gone everywhere. And even after, I'm just looking, going, "There's no ice cream." I'm just wearing it, and all I could think was, "Oh, how many bowls of jelly do I have to have before they refill the ice cream?" It was. But there, I was
good days though.
Oh, great!
Good memories.
Two slices of pizza, 15 bowls of ice cream and jelly.
Oh,
go home.
Oh, best. I used to have birthday parties at Pizza Hut.
Yeah.
I mean, I wish I still could, to be honest.
Yeah,
I reckon I'd love that.
Oh, mate, you imagine, like, you just go, you go into this Pizza Hut.
I know, pizza. I would actually go if there were a salad bar and someone had their 50th. Because I'm 48, it's coming up.
Yeah.
I actually went to a birthday party for a little kid recently because I had to. I was staying with.
Not just a hobby of yours. Because I was walking past, and I
mean, how good are kids' parties, eh?
Fairy bread.
I mean, what am I going to do? Good. Don't you just want to be at them when you're a parent? I was staying in England with a friend that I grew up with in India, Claire. She was across the road. She was my best friend. And her son, who's 7, was attending this gymnastics party.
Oh, look, this is 2 of your favourite things.
It really was. And I was sitting there watching all the kids sort of tumbling and doing the little warm-ups and stuff, and all the parents are just sort of standing there behind glass watching and trying to talk to each other. And I thought, I would actually prefer a 50th gymnastics party. I reckon that'd go off. Imagine how funny that'd be. Imagine trying to stretch and that, and everyone's in their trackies.
Couple of white wines into a few of the mums, and All of a sudden, I used to be able to do the splits. All right, let's see it.
And there's just ambulances backing in.
Exactly. That is, yeah. And then catered by, you have a gymnastics party that then all of a sudden Pizza Hut turns up.
Salad bar just rolls in.
Yes.
Give me that any day. I would actually, that could be an ideal 50th.
That is, you know what? You got 2 years to plan this out.
I wonder if Pizza Hut will get back into business. I think we've given them far too much airtime. Sorry about that.
So especially Domino's is the sponsor of this.
Are you kidding me?
No, yes. I wouldn't. Imagine that.
Oh, you'll be cutting all this out
mate.
then?
No, it's so you grow up in India till 9. How much of a culture shock was coming back to Canberra?
Massive.
Because just even the weather.
Oh, and having no mates whatsoever on the earth.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So you show up and who are you? You're just this chick with a weird accent. I had this mashup accent of like Indian, Australian, American, German, South African. It was this whole weird blend accent. And you show up halfway through year 5. And it was, I didn't really, it's hard to explain what it was like because I don't know what it was like for other people. But for me, I felt like I had to make an impression pretty quickly. I think this is probably where the comedy weirdness comes from is that, hi, I'm here. Hi.
Yeah.
Don't forget I'm the whole thing. And so I quickly got into dance and gymnastics and stuff like that. And then the movie Flashdance came out. I don't know if you remember.
Yeah, I remember Flashdance. I remember Flashdance?
It was a bloody great film, mate. Top 10 for sure. And I learnt the choreography to the closing scene of Flashdance where she auditions to get into this dance school. And what I thought was, if I do that for my year 6 teacher, she's going to call someone fame school or something. Like, get her in. She's busy. You get her in. She needs to get straight.
Hollywood.
Get in.
We've found one.
Yeah. I thought that's how it works, right? And so, and I don't know why even fame, like when you're a child, fame just sounds great. There's when you get a brain, you realise actually fame must be awful.
Yes.
I can't imagine what that must be like. But when you're a kid, you're like, fame just means people are listening to me.
They know me. They like me. Everyone likes me. So I have all the friends in the world. Oh my God.
So I did this dance for my teacher at lunchtime. I asked her. And that's what my show last year was that was the finale of my show, was the whole Flashdance story. And so I did it and nothing happened. She didn't make the call. I never got called up. But I'm here today, mate, and that's the main thing.
Well, it only took all these years later before you got to do a podcast
with Andrew Barnett.
Yes, yeah. I love thinking about those stories with the stuff you did as a kid from that teacher's perspective now, because like having kids and you just see the ways their brains work at different points and the stuff they want to do, and you're like, okay.
Absolutely.
And then, so looking at that, you wonder how many, I guarantee that teacher, still remembers that day. And I was like, what happened to little Christine Ryan?
You know what's funny about that, though? So that story, I have a friend that works at the ABC did an interview with me about the Flashdance story. And other things, and he actually tried to find that teacher, and he did find her.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and because he was going to ask her to go on and talk about it as well, but she was like, to be honest, I don't really.
Oh my God!
And I said, you know what? That doesn't surprise me because at the time she wasn't that impressed. She was just still eating a salad sandwich, just going, righto, thanks for that.
There's a lot of Flashdance stories.
I know.
I mean, she's just like. Oh my! Which year
one?
Was it?
Yeah, I know. There was one every week. There was someone doing something. Yeah. I think kids look to teachers a lot for that kind of validation, and they're like this other adult in their lives that they look up to, and
It's funny you should say that because my old man was a teacher, and I've bumped into different students of his over the years, and even a few at comedy gigs where people are like, did you Barnett? I had a teacher, and you're like, oh my, and then they tell you this, tell him that this person says hello, right? Thinking that, I was the bane of his maths class, sort of stuff. And Dad goes, who?
Yeah, it's heartbreaking.
Isn't it? And then he asked me, he always does this, he goes, was her brother? I'm like, I didn't ask who her brother was. I'm lucky to remember
students,
the name. Yeah.
So many.
And then, because I suppose in your head, like the teacher is the singular person.
Absolutely.
But in their head, there's 30 of you
I know.
sitting there.
And that's the way of the world.
It is.
Like, and it has parallels in comedy.
Oh,
you know?
I think it's funny because we'd all do, and you see it now, like I think people whinge about it saying that there's more like it now, but I don't think it's any more like it. It's just more evident because of social media. But this idea that we're all sort of just the hero in our own movie going on. Like, most people have lived like that forever. But now you just get to see it play out because they're actually filming their own movie most of the time.
I know. And I, when you say that, I just want to curl into a ball. Because honestly, I mean, remember the time before social media when we didn't have our phones on us like we do now? And we actually were in a room talking to people and paying attention. And actually, you would accidentally see someone and meet someone new, or, things would happen in your real life and you were open to them. And I just feel like I was a healthier person mentally before phones.
I find that I used to go, I went through a period where even if I'd go to the shops to get like, the groceries or whatever, sometimes I just have my headphones in, it's just a bit of music just to tune out, like, because like, oh, this will get me through that. And now I actually really consciously, I went through a phase where I do it and then I'm like, did I get that? Did I not? I'm not focused on what I'm actually doing. Mate. And it'd take me way long. And so now I'm like very much conscious, okay,
that's good.
I'll listen to whatever in the car on the drive there, sing along, turn the car off, go in and just try and...
Yeah, that's good. That's good. I mean, I'm also trying... I think it might be an age thing too. You sort of figure, like, I've reached this point, I think I should be happier than I am right now. You know what I mean? Like, or, or I think there's a better way, or I think there's a way to give me more peace or whatever. And I try and, I'm always trying to improve my outlook or... make my life experience better. Or
I think that comes to with like very much like you say it's an age. I think it's partly an experience, like just an experience thing where you get a bit of perspective on that. Okay, there's actually no because when you're young you think, okay, I'm gonna do this, this, and this, and I'll be happy. That's my life. And then you realise life actually goes on way longer than you thought. And
if you're lucky.
Yeah, if you're lucky. All going well.
Yeah.
But like even a career in comedy, like it like when you first start, you think, okay, so I'll do this and I'll make it, and then and you realise it's actually the goal isn't the big pop at the start. The goal is just to have a long career where you're still able to work in 20, 30 years time where you want to, if you want to. And
that is so true. And I think finding a way to be grateful for every gig and not become complacent or lazy or take it for granted, and to not be jealous or, not look sideways at what everyone else is doing and keep focused on your thing. I really admire hardworking comedians with longevity. And it is so easy to lose the passion for the thing that you wanted the most in the world. Yeah. And you think, how did that ever happen? How does it ever? And if you do have a long career, you're lucky. You will go through peaks and troughs of passion and commitment and a little
success.
Bit and malaise and maybe not success, and then that'll propel you. But life is not a straight line. It will go up and down, and we have to, this is just what I'm trying to understand and work with as a human being, not just as a person that does comedy every now and then,
My big thing at the moment is I'm trying to just enjoy the process of it all. And then, how did it explain to me, if you just get and you do the job day to day, the career will eventually look after itself. Like if you start looking too far ahead and you go, I want to be there's so many variables that can take you off that path and off this. But if you stay focused at if you're doing day to day what you want to do, then you end up essentially where you want it to be.
Yeah. Discipline is a big problem for me.
Yeah, same. But you gotta, I think, having the awareness of the discipline too, I think too, it's very easy. I don't know about you, I go through these phases where I'll go, okay, I need to write something, and then nothing's coming, and I'm like, you have that insecurity, but I may never have a funny thought again. And then sometimes then when you're sort of half focused on something else, then that's when it starts to come. And it's just understanding, okay, just trust that you've done this before. Yeah. It'll happen. You've just got to trust.
It's incredible how inventive and creative I can get avoiding writing.
Yeah.
I can be a genius at avoidance, not so much at creation. You know?
I've always said, if you want me to do something, give me something else to do that's much more pressing and more important. And then you've got my full focus on the thing that's less important. And
I'm hoping this works for me today, because I literally do have to do my tax. Oh. And so it's going to be a toss-up. Which do I want to do less, my tax or write my new show?
Oh, yeah.
And, oh, man, it's going to go off this Arvo. I can see. I'll probably... No, who knows? I might want to go to the pub, to be honest.
My house is never cleaner and more organised than when I have to sit down and write my new show. Like, it's like, okay, I need to sit down and work on the show today.
I literally walked around and picked up crumbs with my hand, large ones, because I didn't have a vacuum last week. Yep. And I honestly went, and I just walked around and picked up a few big crumbs. Yeah. Because I didn't want to write. What an idiot. It's mental, isn't it?
It's like, you want anything to avoid the task at hand. But that's... I mean, I don't know, just knowing that that's part of the process for me. I'm like, okay, it'll come.
Yeah, it'll come.
And then knowing it's painful. The sitting down with a blank page is sort of painful and scary. But then the satisfaction when you actually do right. I don't know. It's like I'm two different people. When I first sit down or I'm avoiding it, I'm like, this is the worst. And then when I sit down and actually get something done, and I'm like, mate,
it's the best.
You know what?
I love this. I'm a genius.
I'm never gonna avoid work again. I'm gonna remember this. Yep. You just got to do it. Just knuckle down, mate.
Yeah, good on you, mate. Yeah. So good. You still got it.
And then the next morning, it's still back to the avoiding. It's like, what? Like, why can't the short memory for the satisfaction you get from actually making yourself work?
It's like we have weird little rat brains. It's like we're only when we get that stimulation. Do we get possessed, Otherwise it's just like, nah, I'm looking for some other high, thanks.
So how long have you been doing stand-up comedy now?
I'd say I started March 2012. So
March 2012?
Yeah, that was Raw Comedy, so I did that. And so I've been doing it since then. I probably went full-time about 3 years ago, maybe.
So what was the impetus to go full-time?
Firstly, my family situation enabled it. So my partner got he was able to take on the full-time care at home, and so I was enabled to do it. Also, I think I had this strange situation where I did a run of gigs up in Queensland, and I really was not good at them. Like, they were hard, you know. They were these pub gigs, and I wasn't going great, and I thought, and the headliner was going great. He was crushing it. And he was very friendly. And I talked to him at the bar afterwards, and he was so happy with his career, and he was doing cruise ships. He was doing these gigs, and he was crushing, and I was sucking. And I was thinking, maybe comedy's not for me, because all of that sounds like a nightmare, and I don't like these gigs, and maybe this is not for me, So I came home and I sort of lay down for about 3 days, and then I went, no, bugger it, I'm gonna have a full tilt at this. And probably one of the things that resonated with me to try it full time was a few years ago when I was working in events management. I had the good fortune to meet Kitty Flanagan backstage. She was doing this massive builders gig for 1,200 builders in the convention centre in Canberra. Wow. And she just smashed it out of the park. It was so good.
As she does.
I remember her opening line was something like, you got builders, it's lovely to be here for you. You've been stuffing up my place for ages, so I thought I'd come and mess your place up. So I don't remember.
Yeah.
It was funnier than that. But I talked to her backstage, and I told her I did comedy, because you can't help it when you're an idiot. You just do.
You're just excited.
You just get excited, and you're like, I do a bit of comedy. She's like, when are you going to go full time? And I went, no, I couldn't do that. No, I've got kids. No, that won't do. And she's like, well, you never know until you throw everything at it whether you can do it or not. And that was so challenging at the time. but it resonated so heavily because later on when I did reach that point, I just thought, oh, well, all in, let's see, you know.
That's sage-like, isn't it?
Oh,
like,
yeah.
That's,
very,
and it's
very kind of her too to even talk to me like that.
You wonder, I wonder how many bits of advice like someone like Kitty's given like that. I wonder if she even would have the appreciation, the impact that made.
No,
I love those. Love the thought of those, like people like that, almost like a teacher.
Yeah,
that, you know,
yeah, exactly.
And they've said something to you. She said something to you that's like totally genuine. Just that this
Absolutely.
is the thought, and you don't realize. I love that thought that sometimes we're having impact on people without knowing.
I do also think that people come into your lives at certain times. I do think that you get what you are. Like the energy you put out is what you attract.
Yeah. All right, you're in India for a bit.
No.
Right? I know 100% what you mean.
You know, like I just think that sometimes someone comes into your life to tell you something.
But also I think like to that end is sometimes you could hear that advice at different points in your life and it wouldn't mean anything to you, so you wouldn't hear it, you wouldn't listen. Whereas it was something that you needed to hear from someone you needed to hear it from at that time, which is where that you're like, okay, this makes sense. This is a piece of a jigsaw that mightn't have been the final piece at that point in time. But then you get a few more things in and you go, oh, here's this. Okay, here's the picture. I need to give this a crack full time.
And I think also it shows the importance of being encouraging to people and speaking. You know, like a lot of people hold back on compliments or encouragement. You know, like how you might get a situation where you want to say something to someone like, oh, I love what you just did then, or like, I love how you do this, or whatever. And it's always worth saying it. Yeah. Because they need to hear it. And, you know, it can't do anything but good. You know,
well, I think sometimes, like, the only times I've ever held back on the compliment, it's mostly out of my... It's something going on with me rather than them. Yeah. So why wouldn't you just say the thing, mate, that was a really good job, or really enjoyed that, and then you it doesn't hurt you, it doesn't change your perception. And sometimes it's either ever only out of my own insecurities that I haven't said, like I've thought it and then gone, oh, I don't know, sound like a wanker, or
I know.
And then
also, who cares what I say? You know? Yeah. But I think people genuinely, if you give a genuine compliment or have even like pieces of advice, like I don't know if you've ever been asked by another perhaps comedian or a worker or a friend or something for advice. The worst thing about that is if they don't take it. You know?
Yeah. I feel like sometimes I'm not too quick to give advice, but people like say something, and I'll just go, "Oh, well, this is like I'm happy to throw out my thoughts on a thing, and I'm take it or leave." Like, and most of the time too, I'll often talk without listening to what I'm saying. Like people will say to me, "Oh, you said that to me." I'm like, "Did I?" I didn't. Like, mate. You told me I should really do this, and I'm like, "Okay, was I right?" It's like I have no idea, but I kind of I like that, especially. I love chatting. Like when there's something really nice, and this is just feeds your own ego thing. But when a newer comic asks you for advice on something, I kind of just like, oh wow, that's they want to know what I think.
I know, and because you in your own head are still starting.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, like I don't think if you have any ambition and self-awareness, you never feel like you've achieved what you want to achieve.
No.
And every time you reach a new goal, you just set new ones. So you don't really feel grateful for what you've just achieved. You just sort of like, oh, yeah, well, I'm doing this now, but, you know, whatever. Heaps of other people doing heaps of better stuff. Who cares, you know? But, you know, you forget.
It also gives you, like I find I tend to appreciate what I've been able to do more when someone asks me about, like, I've had a few younger comics ask me about, you know, Fox, you know, when you're doing Fox Sports, when you're doing live TV, this stuff. And it's not until I think, I actually know how to answer that question because I did a bunch of live TV. And then all of a sudden I'm like, oh wow, I did live TV.
Yeah.
Like, that's...
Yeah, massive. Like, most people haven't.
Yeah, and where you look and go, now I go, okay, what am I doing? Like, I'm worried about the, you know, where am I going now? What am I doing next? But then you look back and go, hey, you know what, when you started... if I said you could have done all this, would you be happy? I'm like, yeah, I'd be happy.
Exactly.
Like I would have sold anything to get to this
point. That's the thing.
And that doesn't mean you don't want to keep going.
And also the brain finds things to worry about. Our brain needs to be occupied worrying and looking for threats, and that's just how we're built.
Especially, I think that's one of the things I find in common with a lot of comedians is that, like, people say, you got to be really smart to be a comedian. Like, well, man, come hang out with a few of them.
Yeah,
and we really
don't feel smart at all.
No. And sometimes you hang around and go, well, I don't feel smart, but I feel smarter than that person. Like,
yeah, no, that's sometimes the only way I have a good thought.
Yeah. But that idea, but the one thing I think like most comedians have in common is it's just that busy brain that's always
it's true.
churning, thinking about the stuff when most people would have stopped.
I know.
It's that annoying brain.
It is an annoying brain.
The one thing I find a lot of comedians talk about is like when you talk to them, it's like, oh yeah, man, I didn't sleep. Yeah, I know, I never sleep well. Like it's that just can't switch off.
And I just feel like, because I've made a big move to Sydney recently, for comedy, you know, largely to get more stage time, and I figure I've made this massive decision to come here, and my family has sacrificed for me to do so as well, and so I have to be happy. I want to be happy about this. You know, like I don't want to waste my days or nights at all because I've made this massive choice to come here. You know, so I'm actually being quite deliberate in my life at the moment, and it's probably the first time I've taken it so seriously and decided I want to be happy, and I will find ways to do that in my everyday, you know, and it's a big responsibility, but I've often hived off the responsibility for my emotions to situations or people or circumstances, and it's here. It's my job actually.
That's it. That's an interesting realization, and I sort of lose track of that regularly too, like where you're like, you know, I'll be happy if, I'd be happy if, I'd be happy if, you know, or I can want those things but still be happy now, like that. Okay, just because you haven't finished, and
it doesn't have to be so black and white. I can really switch into that black and white thinking. That's my standard. That's my status quo. Is it's either this or it's that, you know, and it's so unhelpful, you know. Like often things are neither. It's a combination of things. It's I think I'm trying to get used to. Not feeling exhilarated all the time is fine. That doesn't mean you're not happy. And if you do feel bad, that'll pass too. I don't know. It's there's just so much growing up still to be done. And I kind of wanted it to be done. I wanted to be able to set and forget and be like, no, well, I'm good now. I know what's going on up here, you know?
My goals very much have changed since I started, in terms of like when I started, I was like, okay, I want to be able to do this. Now I just want to be able to, like, partly, yes, I want to get to the point where I'm like, I have shorter term goals. Okay, so in this next period, I want to get much better at this. It's more about, I've tried to change my goal setting to be more about the things I can control. Yeah. Like, so I want to get better at writing a 1 hour show. Yep. I want this hour to be better than the last one. Yep. And so, and you know, within that, it might be, okay, I need some better storytelling, or I need, you know, I need to structure it better. I need to, whatever it is, set those goals for things I can objectively sit and go, okay, I improved here. And then worry less about, you know, when you set a goal going into something, I'm going to sell this many tickets or whatever.
That's so out of your hands.
Yeah, there's so many things that can affect that. It's out of your hands.
Yeah. I know, it's so true. And that's a very wise way to approach it. I think that's what all the books tell us we should be doing, is only worrying about what we can control. Certainly the Stoics say that. And I think with things like the Melbourne Comedy Festival, for example, you know, like the last couple of years, there hasn't been that many internationals. Next year, there'll be more internationals, you know. It's going to be challenging for Australian comedians. You know, like we have to get our heads around accepting all of that, and just it's all...
And on the other side of it, you know, the last year, there was still on the tail end of the pandemic, so the crowds were coming out, but they they were people, instead of going to the festival, going to their whole, going to see as many shows as they could. They didn't want to risk getting COVID because that was still isolation, and so they'd pick their sure things that they knew or whatever, and then they go. So there was that challenge. So this year's there'll be different challenges, and then the next year there'll be a different set of challenges.
Exactly, and you're right. If you keep it focused on, has my show gotten better? Am I proud of my work?
Yeah,
and also for me, I want to enjoy myself. I don't want to just go down there and be like, wear the hair shirt and birch myself. It's got to be fun. I've got to have good people around me.
And that's how I'm trying to approach now, because the whole thing, you've got to be more active on social media, build your following, all that sort of stuff. I have very much been reticent to do that, but not out of, like, part of me was like, I was beating myself up like, you're just being lazy. And I realised I hadn't found a way to use it that made me happy, that gave me a creative outlet.
Because I'm in the same boat. I'm terrified of TikTok, and getting criticised by 14-year-olds in their basement.
Oh, so the answer to all that stuff is you post and then never look at any of it. What I did on my phone was I moved all my social media off the home screen, so it's deep. So it's not like you pick up your phone and go, there's a notification on Facebook, I'll look at that. It's funny because my wife will often say to me, so-and-so, this happened to. And it'll often be comedy friends of mine have posted that she's friends with as well.
Oh, right.
And she'll go, so-and-so, this happened to so-and-so. I'm like, oh, what? Yeah. She's like, you didn't see Facebook? I'm like, I don't look at Facebook.
No, that's very good.
I don't look at any of it.
That's great.
Which is... it took a lot of time, but I realised what was happening was I'd do a lot of weekends, and I'd be going out on a Friday night, and now the kids would be they'd be sitting down to watch a movie and have pizza, and I'd be like, I need a Friday night off. I need a Friday night, and so I'd spend time looking forward to this Friday night off, and on that Friday night off, I'd pick up my phone and see people posting about gigs and go, I should be gigging.
And you'd get that missing out.
Yeah, the FOMO.
Yeah.
And so I realised I was never happy where I was because I was always thinking about the other place I could have been. And so then I just went, you know what, I've got to just...
Yeah, it's so wise. That's a really good thing.
Took a lot of...
Did it?
And it's still, like, I still catch myself going, you just got to... If you... Like, the good thing for me was when my wife's very good at it if you're going to be, she's very good, if you're going to be away, like whatever, she's never criticised me for going out and gigging. She's always been fully supportive. But then the good thing that she helped me with is, when you're home, let's make the most of the time.
That's smart.
And it just changed.
That's very smart.
She's good. Well, the other thing is like, I never really want to do anything.
Yeah,
like,
right.
I don't know if you're like this, but like I will like...
I never want to do anything.
No, if it's in the calendar, I don't want to do it.
Oh, yeah,
right.
Yeah.
And so it's like, she's like, we should go, like on a Sunday, we should go to this, market or this thing that's on. And my instinct is no. No, like, I'm Captain Inertia.
That's a guy thing, I think. Yeah. Well, in my experience, that's a guy thing.
But every time she's made me do it, go out and socialise with people, go out and do the things, I always had a ball and really glad I did it.
Right.
Which now I'm even starting.
Interesting.
I don't know about you. You ever rock up to a gig and just be like you just on the way, you're like, oh man, if they call and cancel this gig, I'm going to be so excited.
Mate, once I had a corporate and I got a bit from it, and the bit is this. Sometimes I don't want to go to work so much that I pray for a catastrophic event.
Yep.
Like, I don't want heaps of people to die, just enough.
Yeah.
So I don't have to go to work, but I still get paid. I have had that.
I don't want to have to mark that memorial every year. We're not talking that level.
But yeah, I totally know the dread that sometimes... But that's all part of the not being appreciative of where you are, what you're doing.
Well, now I've started, even... Because I've realised sometimes I'm not going to get rid of that feeling, like, because you're tired. And but then knowing now, sometimes I'll get to a gig and go, I don't want to be here. And then just thinking, you know what? I'm going to enjoy my mood turning around, because I always leave those gigs going, I feel heaps better. I'm glad I did that. Like, I'm glad I made myself do it. And just sometimes I'll get to a gig and go, you know what, I'm not in a good mood, but I know that I'm going to leave this feeling better than I did. And just trying to trick myself into appreciating that.
Sometimes you do have to trick yourself.
Oh.
A friend of mine, he's quite wise. He he's a good comedian, Billy Stiles. He taught me about tricking your mind with affirmations. So I know affirmations are very counterintuitive if you're a self-loather at all.
Yeah.
And it's all about, telling yourself you're great, you're fine, everything's good, you're doing your best. But one of the things, if you find yourself struggling, with a certain situation, you can tell yourself, well, I used to be the kind of person who didn't feel good after a gig, but now I'm not like that. Or whatever it is your problem is. You just tell yourself that you put that person in the history, and then you are now this different person. Now. You just trick yourself that way.
That's not bad.
Yeah, it's an interesting one.
Yeah, it's funny how, and that's what you realise, how much of everything's just a mental game.
Oh, unfortunately.
Yeah. Because
some people are better at mental agility than others, and I just don't think I'm that good at it yet.
Sometimes
I used to be a person who thought they weren't good at mental agility. Now I'm all about it.
I think sometimes too, I get jealous of people. Those people that you see it on social media all the time. They just post, and you're like, this person has no self-awareness.
Oh, I feel like you're talking about me. Honestly, I think anyone that posts on social media, and I'm one of them. Every time I do it, I'm just like, oh, what did you do that for?
No.
Cares? You're at the pool. Who cares?
I'm more thinking of the influencer type, but that lack of self-awareness is in some ways a bit of a blessing. The people that just assume, well, why wouldn't people be interested in that?
Good, more power to them too.
Yeah.
Because I can't imagine. I would love to just not think about myself and my place in the world as much as I do. I would prefer not to.
Yeah.
I'd prefer to just scoot through and be nice to people and appreciate stuff and not quadruple guess stuff.
Yeah.
Just go and have lunch, Chris. It's no biggie. And it doesn't matter if you said the wrong thing or if you had spinach in your teeth. None of it matters. No one died. Everyone had a nice day,
How much do you... I don't know if you do this. I am the mad replayer of conversations in my head where I'm like, because you go for the joke, because that's my first instinct too, is if I'm uncomfortable, I try and let's lighten this up with a gag, and sometimes it goes horrendous, and just replaying all that stuff in my head so often is like, why did you...
Do you remember a really bad one? Can we hear about it? I'm just
trying to think. I was actually doing it this morning. I woke up early this morning. I played cricket yesterday, just park cricket. And I was replaying a throw from the boundary.
Oh my God.
We just went, or I just got completely wrong. And I'm like, man, everyone thinks I can't play cricket now.
Yeah.
They think I'm hopeless.
I may as well move suburbs.
You know what? I'm going to go down. I'm just going to practice throwing. Just go down the oval and practice throwing for a bit because I need to improve that. I don't need these, and they don't care.
Nobody's even given it a passing thought.
No,
not once have they thought about it.
And they thought because they one of the keeper made a joke about it to me, which is exactly what I'd do to anyone else, and I wouldn't think. But in my head, oh man, now they've all just think
that's brilliant.
They think I'm hopeless.
That's brilliant.
But it's just everything. And sometimes too, interactions backstage with comedians, especially young, where you go for if you don't know them that way, you go for a joke, and then
I tend to. I don't know what's going on. Sometimes I'll just go mega introvert. Rather than say something wrong. And I'll just become a different person. Well, yeah, no, but, just like if I don't know the people and they're all a bit too cool for school and I feel like a nerd or just an old lady, I'm just like, nah, just shut up. Maybe, no, just shut up. But then it'll turn and I'll just go the opposite. Like, I remember once my friends, Emma Parsonson from Camp Emo and Tom and them, and my good mates down there. We used to do these road trips. I think we had a gig out in Orange, and we did this massive road trip out to Orange. And I remember thinking before I got in the car, they came to pick me up. I remember telling myself, just don't dominate the conversation, Chris. Just shut up. How about you just shut up for at least 15 minutes and just let everyone else talk. Don't get in there and be all hyper and don't go off. And as soon as I got in the car, I told them that I had that thought, and then I just started talking. It's just.
Yeah, you can't help it.
No, I can't help it.
It's who you are. But I think that sometimes too, that's just a dynamic you have. That's obviously a dynamic you have as a group of people, and sometimes that's the most natural fit for that group, and everyone's comfortable in that dynamic. Whereas other times where you are the introverted person, you're clearly not Do you know what I mean? Like, you got to give yourself credit for knowing your situation you're in as well.
Yeah, you do. You do have to keep an eye on people and figure out what they're going to be like.
Yeah.
And often you can tell from just looking at them, I reckon.
Oh, yeah. Mate, you can judge a book by its cover.
I reckon you can.
Like, they don't put a hot chick on the front of the dictionary. You know what I mean? That's like, you know what you're getting. The dictionary
I don't know what you mean by that. Does that mean hot chicks can't be smart? I don't know what that means.
No. What I'm saying is like Ralph magazine looks very different to the dictionary. You know what I mean? The dictionary is all,
That's true. You get what
nice
you get,
and bound.
and you don't get upset.
You can know the difference between those things. I don't know if Ralph magazine even exists anymore, but
I know exactly what you're talking about.
But that was sort of what I was meaning. Like,
it's like
you
boobs
don't,
and cars are in this magazine. Get on board.
Yeah. So you can judge. You can judge to a degree a book by its cover. I mean, you're not going to get all the nuances, but you know generally what genre you're sitting in.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's so. It's funny you said you feel like the old lady in the room. So you started comedy
at 38. Now 38. I'm 48. Yeah.
Do you? Because this is something I'm more aware. I felt old when I started. I felt like I'd started late. I was 27, I think, but I already had a son. I was married. I had a kid, so I felt like the older guy compared to all the guys that were starting out at the time. How did you find that? Like you obviously had kids, married when you started. How did you find that transition?
I felt really excited to have another part of my life that was so exciting and different to the experience of all my sort of mum friends, you know? And I think it felt really a big relief to find I guess you could call it a community, the comedian community, that I related to so easily. Like it felt like I'd found the weirdos that were like me, you know, even though I'm not that weird, you know, but when you put me among a bunch of suburban mums, you know, who know how to behave, and they're responsible people. They run a household, they run a business, they run, they work, they have kids, they do, they're such powerhouses, suburban mums. They hold everything together. Their head is like, even if they're struggling, they will still hold everything together because they have to, in a way. And so I felt like I wasn't quite that. And whilst they could care about things like saving for this holiday that was happening once a year at this time, and everything was very structured and responsible, and I've never felt that way. I've always felt a little bit, well, if I don't want to, I won't do it. It's a kind of like almost like a teenager attitude that I've never lost.
I know exactly what you mean in that sense of, like, you get into the comedy community and you, like, on that scale, not weird at all. And sometimes, and I know myself, like, within comedians, hanging out with comedians, I'm seen as very normal.
Yeah, I probably would be. I think a lot of people have thought that I'm normal, whatever that is, and they don't know me at all. And it's just because I present the same as all the other suburban mums. They don't know.
It's funny because I'll be in I often joke. I did one of those tours where I was with a bunch of they were mostly younger guys, but I was like helping just set everything in the van, like, and Connor Burns, it's like, put the suitcase there. He goes, "Oh, we'll let the real man know who knows what he's doing. Put the stuff in the van." And I said to him, this is the only world I live in. Comedy's the only place where I'm thought of as a blokey bloke,
person. Right?
Like, just in the rest of my life, not at all do I measure up in terms of that sense. Like, the amount of barbecues with school dads and stuff where these
and
guys
do you feel a bit like a fraud?
Massively
in that community. Like,
they've got like job. They're talking work sites. They know stuff. They know how to do things. They know they fix stuff around there. Like, one of the guys, one of the dad mates couldn't play cricket this weekend. I'm renovating the bathroom. I'm like, what?
Can't even imagine.
Who'd you hire to do that?
Yeah. How do you begin?
I know.
Like, what do you look at in the catalogue for Bunnings? Like, what even is a renovation of a bathroom. What?
Yeah, I wouldn't know where to start. But with comedians, they're all like, well, you know what you like.
Look
I'm
at
like,
Dad
oh,
here.
mate.
There's Dad over here.
They were calling me Dad by the end of that,
sure
and I wasn't
they
happy
were.
just quietly. Felt
Cut it out.
old.
Yeah.
Mate, we are right at time now.
Right.
This has been an absolute pleasure. I will have to get you back because there's heaps more.
Love to. Yeah.
Heaps more I want to ask you about.
Thanks for having me, Barney.
No worries. Before we go, though, just plug anything, your socials, all that sort of stuff, where people can find you, where you struggle to post because, or where you're going to post and feel bad about it.
Yeah, I'll post and feel bad at Christine Ryan Comedy on Instagram, probably is the one. I've got some split shows coming up in Newcastle and Canberra with Sarah Gall, just new material, getting ready for next year.
Lovely.
So, yeah.
Excellent. And as always, Andrew Barnett Comedy on Instagram. And I think I'm on TikTok. There'll be stuff posted at some stage. Yeah. Okay. I've just started getting stuff for that.
Fun.
Other than that, thank you very much. Thank you, Christine.
Thanks heaps.
Cheers.